My goal for today is more the perceptions of, and I have pens too, the perception of unplanned pregnancy and in the church. So this is where more my focus on today's class is going to be.
Thank you.
Sure. And did you want a pen? Okay, perfect. I'll just give you a moment to do that. Okay, so we all have the foundation of knowing that God is the giver of life and the taker of life, right? From the womb to the tomb. So as Christians, we believe that, and if you have a biblical worldview in the climate that we're in with laws and abortion, this is what we believe, that we are called as the church body to protect those who cannot protect themselves, the voiceless, have a voice for the voiceless. But for us at Solutions and for us within the church, we want to make sure that every woman feels that she has a safe place to go, that she has a resource and a community to come alongside her. So as to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm Melissa Stevens, the new Executive Director of Solutions Health and Pregnancy Center. However, I'm not new to pregnancy center work. I have been in the industry of ministry in unplanned pregnancies since 2010, so I'm in my 14th year now. And I've worked and seen so many different situations. There is none that's exactly alike. You know, we're all unique and our stories are all unique, just like our salvation and our testimony. However, there's always a common thread of brokenness, lack of support, and just maybe a sense of community and a safe place that all of these women come into our center not having those supports and systems in place. That little baby in that picture there is very precious to me. And the reason why I put that picture, I'm going to share this story with you, is because we all have a sphere of influence. We all have people we can impact with the way we speak, the way we, shine our light, and how we are a help to women and men in our sphere of influence. And that baby was born because of my husband's influence in his coworker's life. So the grandmother of that baby was on my husband's team at his job. So he's been right alongside me all these years. And I think sometimes, we're women in this room, but for men too, you never know who you can impact. And when that baby's grandma came into work distraught that her daughter was pregnant, he really just came alongside her, listened to her, had compassion, but ultimately said, this is a gift from God, and maybe as it wasn't as planned, it's still a gift from God, and we have to treasure and protect that life. And that baby is the very thing that saved his mother's life, because she was a drug addict. And when she found out she was pregnant, she stopped immediately because she always wanted to be a mother. And she was terrified that something would happen to the baby because of her addiction. So that baby actually saved his mother's life. So that's just a great story. And again, to just encourage everybody, you never know. It could be somebody at the store. You could be overhearing somebody in the aisle talking about, I think I might be pregnant. It could be at school. It could be anywhere. So just always to have that mindset that God will set up these divine appointments. It might not be in the center of solutions, not saying that you shouldn't volunteer or participate in activities there, but we're all in this together. And if we all are impacting the people around us, ultimately it will lead to more souls being saved and babies born. So that's just a little story for me. So the mission of Solutions Health and Pregnancy Center is to empower individuals to make informed decisions concerning pregnancy and sexual health by providing life-affirming help and hope, and of course, ultimately leading to salvation, because we can give them all the tools and resources, but without Jesus, really, there's nothing. So we're going to go through this little quiz throughout my presentation today to just build a little bit of awareness and have maybe a little perspective when we leave here today. So if anybody wants to raise their hand, who thinks, how many women were attending church at least once per month at the time of their abortion? Does anybody want to volunteer what they thought?
I think 2.
I thought C.
3? Okay, let's see. So 2 in 5 women were attending church regularly at the month of their abortion. So this is not something that is outside of the walls of our churches. Who do you think is the most influential person in a woman's abortion decision?
You're missing one up there, I thought.
Well, I couldn't put everybody, but
No,
I put
I
the
know.
ones, the top ones that I
My
thought.
brain went to myself.
Oh, okay.
So, friends, please.
Friends? Friends?
I thought the father.
So the father of the baby is the most influential. So even if the parents are on board, the friends are on board, she's got a support system. If the father of the baby is either pressuring her to abort or says, I'm not ready to be a dad, a lot of times she's walking into that pregnancy decision thinking, I'm going to be doing this alone, even though she could have all those other support systems, because really that's the other person that participated in creating this life, right? So if they're already telling you they're not on board, it's very hard to feel like you can face this alone. And at the pregnancy center, we definitely try to come alongside the men. Something we're trying to do is recruit more male volunteers to have those male counselors to be hanging out in the waiting room. Like, hey, bro, you want a cup of coffee? And just kind of start that casual conversation, because a man's not going to make an appointment for a counseling session. Let's just face it, they're not going to. So if we can have that availability, just casual, I think that there's opportunity to minister. We have had men in the waiting room ministered to from the female volunteers, which God still uses that, but I think having another male is really important. And we could just look at the story of Jesus's birth. I mean, think about Mary. Joseph was ready to divorce her. Now he was being respectful of it, right? But he was still going to let her go. So in our society, young men are being told, her body, her choice, you have no right to say anything. And that's how they're being raised, maybe not in their home, but like society. So they really don't feel like they have a voice and they can stand up. But God called Joseph. What did he say? Sent the angel to tell him, as he considered these things, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not fear. Take Mary as your wife, for which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. So the angel came and visited Joseph and broke down those lies and the fear, which is what we're seeing in our centers every day, is the fear and the lies of the enemy about this pregnancy to just walk away, whether it's abortion or to desert the woman and leave her with a pregnancy decision, or to raise that baby all by herself. The male in the family is walking away. And that's not what God calls them to do. And we need the men. 25% of our moms were accompanied by their partner at the ultrasound appointment. And that's the women who were considering abortion or were considered abortion vulnerable. So they came, 3 out of 4 women came alone. So how do you think they're already feeling, you're not even coming with me to my appointment. Now we have expanded our hours to have late night times because we specifically wanted to make more opportunities for the men to come. And we have seen an increase in men coming in those late night appointments. So that's good. We want that because, you got to assume hopefully they're at work or school. So we wanted to make that opportunity. Now this is one of our clients, Katie. And she's actually our story. If you're going to do Baby Bottle Boomerang this Mother's Day, she's in the bulletin insert, her story. But they were together, they had been together, they were having a good relationship, and they had been talking about marriage down the road. So when she became pregnant, it wasn't part of the plan. She was very nervous. She came to our center saying, you know, I knew I always wanted to be a mom. This is something I've always wanted, but I'm not ready. I don't have insurance. I'm in between jobs. So the circumstances were not what she wanted. And so though she wasn't telling us that she was considering abortion, she was still having great anxiety and stress and fear. So this young man, Rocco, said to her, we're a family now, and I'm going to make you my wife. And they got married, and she's due any day now. But we just recently had this photo shoot of them, and in this photo, they were already married. And that's what we need. That's what we need as a society. We need men who are going to step up and say, look, if we were together this many years and we were having intercourse, we're responsible adults, we're going to have a family and be together. And even if let's say it was a poor relationship and they weren't getting along, at least to say we're going to co-parent together. If it wasn't marriage, to still step up and be that father role for the baby that you helped create. So we really need the men to be a part of the decision-making process and to encourage. So we're very, even in the design of the building and the furnishings, we don't go very super girly. We want them to feel like they could be comfortable there too, and that we're there for them as equally as we are for the woman. All right, what age group makes up the majority of abortion patients? Does anybody want to guess what that is?
I guess B. I'm gonna say A.
A, okay. All right. So the majority overall, this is statistics, throughout the United States. All of my statistics that I'm referring to today came from CareNet. And Guttmeyer. So this is the majority overall. And I would say at Solutions, more recently, we're seeing both B and C. We're seeing women, and it's not to say that we don't see 13 and 92. We see everybody. But it's, again, these are statistics on majority of who's getting their abortions or considering abortion. But we see everybody. We see the vulnerable. We see the uninsured who, like Katie, she didn't have insurance. So yes, she wanted to be a mother, but she's thinking, how am I going to pay for this? I don't even have a job. You're automatically thinking of hospital bills, diapers, formula. Those who've been abandoned, whether the boyfriend or the father of the baby left. We've even had husbands telling their wives to abort, and here you're married already. You already made that commitment. In that 20 to 29 age bracket, sometimes they're already married. And you would think that wouldn't be the case because you're married. Wasn't that kind of part of the plan? You're going to have kids? Teens and adults. So this is baby Nova Ray. Her parents were 16 and 17. They were our Christmas card. I don't know if you get our Christmas card. And in that situation, again, praise the Lord, the man stepped up. And he said, I know God is the one that gave us this baby, even though I'm scared. I don't know what our parents are going to say. But he said that he prayed over the baby every night. He held her belly and prayed over the baby every night until she was born. And their parents weren't thrilled, and they ended up having to live with an aunt. But again, it's kind of sitting down with them like, who do you have? What's your support system? If you always had that aunt your whole life telling you no matter what, even if your parents kick you out, I'll always be there for you. They knew they had that safe haven to go to. So that's who you want to be. That's the type of person you want to be in the young people who are childbearing years, in your sphere of influence, that safe place that they know no matter what they could always run to, whether it's your kids, your neighbor's kids, your nieces and nephews. We see low income. We see people who, financial fears are coming into play. They don't see how they could care for a child. And so we see everybody. There's nobody safe from facing an unplanned pregnancy. And who wants to volunteer what they think the percentage of women aborted their baby was due to rape or incest? Most of you might know this just because of, if you're very pro-life.
Because of the lies of Satan.
Right,
Me.
right. So society and the argument you'll hear from everybody is going to say something like A, right? Well, that's why we have abortion, to protect women who have been raped and due to incest. But the fact is, 1% of women who aborted their baby were due to rape, and less than 1% was due to incest. So when we justify something for such a small fraction of the cases, to justify the means of all these people who are getting abortions for all these other reasons. And I want to encourage you with this, because I know sometimes we can get into conversations with unbelievers or people in the workplace, or maybe even just very liberal Christians who are pro-choice. This is a good way to kind of change their perspective. Like, okay, if we removed those women, you're saying abortion is not okay in all the other cases, and then that's when the conversation changes. So just a couple little tools to help you when you're having these conversations. And of course, we're doing it in love, and we're gentle when we have these conversations. But abortion is legal at all stages of pregnancy in New Jersey. It's wonderful that Roe v. Wade was overturned. Lives have been saved, because the more accessible abortion is, the easier it is to choose that option. We had a client come to us who was from another country, and she said she was considering abortion, and she had already had an abortion, I think the previous year, and she said the reason she got it, and she got it so quickly, not even thinking about it, was because it was so accessible here. She said, in my country, I could never get this done. It's illegal. But here it was so easy to get one. And now with the second one, she was like on the fence. She wasn't so sure, but she flat out said, if it wasn't so accessible and it wasn't easy here, she goes, I wouldn't get one. If I was still in my country, I wouldn't have aborted that baby. So go ahead.
Do you know we're a sanctuary state, and people can come across the border to get them for free, and we pay for them?
Yes. Yeah, so now it's actually like become abortion tourism. Mm-hmm. You know, employers are paying for airfare, hotels, travel expenses, paid time off for them to get the abortion. But when you really think of the root of it, right? If they put that much money, time, and effort into supporting the women to carry their babies, what different world would we live in? And ultimately, what is their goal when they're paying for all of that for you to abort? What, so you can come back to work? So you don't call out because your baby's sick? It's all really, at the end of the day, it's all for them. It's not for the best well-being of you. What % of abortion patients identify as evangelical, Protestant, or Catholic? Anybody want to guess that?
I thought C. I wasn't going to be that. I was going to go back.
You're hoping?
I was hoping.
I'm hoping it's A, right?
But we know it's not.
Right.
C.
You think C, D? Is that the ballpark we're in?
Yeah.
54% of abortion patients identify as evangelical, Protestant, or Catholic. I recently spoke at a Night of Columbus meeting and they're Catholic, for those of you that don't know, and I told them 30% or 33% of our clients this year were Catholic that were considering abortion. So, you know, and I grew up Catholic myself, and I was raised, and I didn't really know what abortion was, but I didn't believe in it because I just knew it wasn't right, just inherently from just being in church, but I didn't really know what it was. And that's really another job, is to kind of just educate the next generation. Because this is an issue in God's house. It's not just an issue in the world. And I think a lot of Christian parents don't want to talk about sex, don't want to talk about unplanned pregnancy, abortion. They don't want to bring up those subjects because if they talk about it, their child's going to then focus on it like they're never going to hear about it anywhere else. And if I bring it up, now I'm bringing it to their attention, and it's going to be something that they're going to desire because I'm talking about it. But really, do we want the blind leading the blind? Do we want them to find out about these things from children, peers at school, or maybe teachers that are not having biblical worldview? Are they the ones that are going to influence their perspective about these topics if we're not going to talk about it with them? As women considered their abortion decision, what reactions did they expect from their local church? Right. So of course, all of us here want them to say B. And that's what we want. But unfortunately, most feel that they'd be judged or condemned if they told. Because what is that automatically saying to your peers, your pastor? I'm having sex, right? You're automatically saying your sin. There's a lot of things in the church that we can hide. Like we just took that class, most of us just took that class about, being mean to our husbands or not submissive and all those things. But if you do that at home, you can kind of hide that from everybody, right? But if you're pregnant, you can only hide that for so long. That's kind of a visible thing, which is kind of like, you got the red A on your blouse, so to speak. So that's why I think a lot of Christians feel that abortion is their best option because they can hide it. But we can't hide anything from the Lord, and our heart never forgets. So I have a little gift. If you want to take one and pass it around, this is my little goodie for you guys today for picking my class. So this is continued education because I can only tell you so much in 45 minutes. I'm going to just quote a little story, but this whole book is made up of short stories of different women who face unplanned pregnancies, and they were all in different situations and different circumstances. But I'm going to read Danielle's story quickly, just pieces of it. For most of my life, I had this idea of what I wanted my future to look like. I was going to follow in the footsteps of my father and be a recording artist and songwriter. I wanted to be a world changer. My life was mapped out. Nothing and no one could get in my way. When I was 21 years old, I learned that I was pregnant outside of marriage. How was I ever going to tell my parents, my family, my friends? What would people think of me when they saw that I was pregnant with no wedding ring on my finger? Even with all the things I had been through in my past, nothing made me feel more helpless in my entire life. The father of my baby and I were no longer together, so why should I keep her? What kind of mother would I be if I were selfish enough to let my daughter live in a home where her parents weren't married? All I wanted was a way out. It complicated things a tad bit that my father was not only a pastor, but also part of the well-known Christian group Phillips, Craig, and Dean. I was terrified that as soon as his congregation found out that I was pregnant, they would leave his church. One Sunday morning, my father decided to put the rumors to rest. He said, "Danielle, if people want to leave my church because you got pregnant outside of marriage, then I don't want them at my church." He told his congregation that I indeed was pregnant and I was going to place my baby for adoption. The entire church stood up and started applauding. They weren't applauding for my father. They were applauding for me. The church rose to their feet for my decision. And me, I never really looked at the situation as something to applaud. I did not have a baby within the covenant of marriage, but it was the choices I made after the fact that made people applaud. I could have an abortion and have kept it a secret my entire life. I started thinking maybe I don't have to be so hard on myself. Maybe I can live my life knowing that I saved a life. So that's just one of the stories in this book that you can, the summer's coming, you could take it to the beach and read some more stories there. But that quote is in this book. It also has Pastor Dean's experience of how he handled when his daughter first told him. And that was one of his quotes was, "This was not how the gift was supposed to be wrapped." So he was acknowledging that this grandchild was a baby and a gift from God. But part of his mourning was he was mourning the loss of the life he dreamed for his daughter and how things were going to happen. So of course he was worried. The boyfriend was leaving. So the story is more detailed. I just read a little bit of it. But it's just, again, perspective. This is a pastor's daughter. And we see women come into the center at Solutions who you don't understand. You don't understand who my father is. It's that terrified. And for them to know who we are, to be able to come knowing that we're a safe place. We're not going to manipulate them. We're not going to persuade them to do anything. We're just a safe place to come within the church. But to know before they tell anybody else if, their father's a pastor or if not, just being in there. So being pro-life is a stance, but being pro-love is action, right? Who we are in our sphere of influence, how we're affecting the church community, and that's one of our babies, by the way. I love them. For those of you that don't know, we have a board member who's a photographer. He works for Fox News, and he does beautiful photography, and he offers all of our clients as a donation either a maternity photo shoot or a newborn photo shoot. So all these pictures of our clients are done by board member, and they're just such beautiful. And to be able to gift them with these high quality photography photos, they're so thankful. But that's one of the many things we give our clients. But they let me use their photos. So the solution is you. The church isn't a building. It's people who need to find their place in creating a culture for life, and that's what it is. From the day to day, the little moments of how we can affect those around us. Creating a culture for life. And remember, many women around you have abortion in their past. Maybe, they could be in their 40s and 50s and be sitting in the church pews and they had an abortion decades ago and they've never told anybody because they're terrified of how they're going to be perceived. Are they going to still want to be my friend? Are they going to even respect anything I input at Bible study if they say, oh, who are you to even say that? You had an abortion. There's women who are holding on to this guilt and haven't been healed or forgiven and set free. Sometimes a lot of women struggle with the fact, I know God forgives me, he says he'll forgive me, but they don't forgive themselves. And that's what we provide through the center. We have a post-abortive care, and it's basically a Bible study that goes through the attributes of God. But so many women who have had abortions and come to our center for pays, no matter what the age, that if they aren't, saved yet, they get saved through this because they learn who truly God is. I think in the church, no matter what denomination you're in, you can kind of feel like God's that judge with that javelin ready to punish you. And when they learn about who God truly is and they go through his attributes and the scriptures and learning who he is, they know that they really truly are loved and forgiven, knowing that none of us are perfect and none of us could ever hold up to Jesus. But what can we do in our homes? I don't know everybody's demographic here. You might have kids, you might have grandkids, you might have teenagers, you might have younger ones. So I'm just going to try to give you a couple of tidbits of what we could do in the home to try to educate our children and lay that foundation of respect for life and that God created life and that we should protect it. There's many ways you could do this, and depending on the child's age, you want to gear it to obviously where they're at. But for a moment, regardless of their age, I would say if you were in that class of how do you talk to your husband in front of your kids, it's kind of the same thing. How do you talk about the unwed mother in your church? Or maybe when a young girl comes in and she's not dressed appropriately and maybe she's trying to seek some male attention. Maybe her father left her mother and now she's just trying to get any kind of attention she can get. So now she's wearing really short skirts to church or whatever. When you go home, how are you talking about those people? Because when your daughter or son find themselves in that situation, they're going to remember all the things that you said about everybody else. So you could say, I'm pro-life, I'm this, but when they see what you really talked like in the home about people, they're going to think those things about themselves, and they're not going to feel safe to come to you. And that could be if you're an aunt, a cousin, whatever your situation is, how you talk about people. Like I'll tell one example, a woman, I was new to this church group. I had never been there before. So everybody knew this woman and I didn't. And I was already in pregnancy center ministry, and we were all going around. It was a moms encouraging moms type thing. And we were all going around telling each other how many kids we had, how old they were, and introducing ourselves. Because again, it was a mom's group, so everybody had kids. So we're going around, and this woman says, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I have a 1-year-old, and I just found out I'm expecting again. And I'm like, yay! And the room is dead silent. And I'm like, congratulations! And I'm like, why is nobody else coming? And then it was quiet, and then she said, so I guess I messed up again. And I was so confused, and then I felt stupid because I'm like, all right, why am I clapping? Nobody else was clapping. I don't know what's going on. That dumb blonde moment where you're like, I don't know what I just did. But I later found out that she had an unplanned pregnancy, was the first baby. She wasn't with the father anymore, and now she was pregnant again with a new boyfriend, so 2 different dads. And at first, I was like, I felt embarrassed that I reacted the way I did. And then I thought about it, and God told me they should all be embarrassed, that they didn't congratulate her, and it was like this shame in the room. And I'm kind of glad I didn't know, and I reacted how I reacted, because God makes babies, right? And even if we're in our sin, that baby's not sin. And God still had a purpose for that, and he divinely orchestrated it. And I know the boy now, he's friends with my son, and I couldn't imagine the both of them. And both of them, she could have easily aborted both of them. She was in the church and she messed up, and she could have easily just hid it from everybody, and she didn't. And sometimes it's that second pregnancy that they might choose life the first time, but that second one, I know so many women who've come to the center and in my personal life where it's like, all right, I messed up once, but I can't expect them to forgive me the second time. Like, I should know better. I shouldn't have put myself in that. So sometimes they might choose life the first time. And I've had women confide in me within the church that did choose life the first time, but aborted the second time, but nobody knows. And they've confided in me, and it's confidential. But when we're at things talking about pro-life, they'll say, well, why can't they just be like her? She did it. She had the baby. Look at her. She's great. And in her mind, she's thinking, you don't even know. So we just really have to be careful. And of course, God gives us grace and mercy, but we could never know everything. But these are one of our clients as well. And again, it's just, how do we talk about the family unit and life within our family? Are we talking about it with love and respect, even to miss the fact that we're all sinners and we all make mistakes and none of us are perfect? And are we talking with grace and mercy? How do we show that to the people around us, and how do we talk about it so that when our child or our niece or nephew or whoever in your sphere of influence feels like you're a safe place to go when they get that news? No, don't be sorry. So this is my family, and I just wanted to share a story because I'm not trying to act like I have all the answers. My kids are only 11 and 12, so some of you have far more wisdom than me. But I do have 2 kids, and I tried to hold off things from them knowing, as I like it when they don't know. I know a lot of things. Unfortunately, there's a lot of rainbow flags. And every time when they were little, like, when they'd see the rainbow flag, oh, look, Mommy, a rainbow. I'm like, and what's a rainbow? God's promise to never flood. Like, I'm like, every time we saw a rainbow flag. Well, then there was other flags with other colors. And then they started getting confused, and they started asking me, what does that mean? And then they started seeing people, at the boardwalk or whatever with wearing it, and like men holding hands or girls kissing, why are those 2 girls kissing? We're at Six Flags. I'm like, oh gosh. So, they're getting older and they're starting to notice, and they know that marriage is between a husband and a wife. But I tried to explain it to them at their level. And I'm just going to share with you what I did. I think it's very applicable, that you can use it to explain multiple things. You can use it to explain abortion, transgender, homosexuality. But ultimately, I told them what the job of Satan, what he does is to steal, kill, and destroy. And that God says the opposite, that he has come so we may have life and have it more abundantly. And they said, well, I don't understand. How is God using that? How is God using gay people? Or no, how is Satan using gay people to kill and destroy? And that's the whole thing that Pastor Christian's talked about, love is love, right? And we have a whiteboard we homeschooled, so I had a big whiteboard in the room, and I said, okay, let's do our family tree. So I did great grandma and great grandpa. I did, all the family that we have. I made it generic here for you guys. You could apply this to your own families. And I said, okay, now, what if Satan convinced great grandma, now in our story, I said, to be gay, not get married, but you could say have an abortion. You could put in whatever you're talking about with your child or your grandchild or your niece or your nephew. I said, if he can convince her that she, let's say abortion in this case, to abort grandpa, why isn't it showing all my X's? Oh, I had X's on everybody. All right, so I crossed out grandpa. I said, now, if grandpa wasn't born, daddy, your aunt, and your uncle wouldn't be born. They're not showing up. They all had X's on them. This is the whole point of the thing. Oh, I hate technology. All right, so that was what I did. So as they see it, I'm starting to cross everybody out. Then I said, you wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be here, your cousins wouldn't be here. And I started crossing everybody out. And then I said, all the families, you guys, if you weren't born, all the family you would have had all gets crossed out. Now, all these people never existed. And so it was all these red X's all over the board, which it breaks my heart that they're not on the screen, but I'll get over it. But it's a visual. I'm a visual learner, and so are my kids. And all of a sudden, you just take the red marker and you start crossing out everybody, all because Satan was able to convince grandma to have that abortion or get a gender change surgery or whatever, plug it in, marry a woman, whatever you want to do. But it's very applicable. It's a visual, and I think that's a good to show kids at a younger level without getting graphic and telling too much about things that maybe they're not ready to understand.
That's a good ripple effect.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this book was written by Amy Ford that I gave you today. And Amy Ford, her story is also in the book. She grew up Christian her whole life, and her boyfriend was a Christian his whole life. And she had an unplanned pregnancy. She ended up choosing life. She was actually fainted before her abortion, so they had to reschedule her, and then she thought that was a sign from God and didn't get the abortion. The story's all in here. But she decided to start a group of Bible studies for single moms to kind of have that encouragement for each other. And when she started doing that, that's when she found out that there were these pregnancy centers in every state. And she said, how did I grow up in the church and I never knew about my local pregnancy center? She thought that was the most bizarre thing because she didn't know about it. She didn't go to it when she was pregnant. She went to the abortion clinic. So the fact that the next generation is in the church and doesn't know we exist is not good. And that's why you're here today. What is the number one way women hear about Solutions Health and Pregnancy Centers? Free services. Friends and family. Yep, more than Google. Because are you going to trust the internet search engine more than you trust your girlfriend at school that you told everything about? She knows all your secrets. Who do you trust more? So if your friend...
Are you getting shadow banned on Google? Like, because a lot of people are going on Brave or DuckDuckGo.
Right. Yeah, we have a marketing committee that's getting built up right now to try to make sure that we're getting enough. Yeah. We do get people who find us online. That's not that it's not happening, but I think when there's that relationship, they trust. The second highest is Google. Just doing a search for services, we come up. So do they know where to go? I don't know why certain things aren't coming up on my screen now. So that's our job in the church, is to let them know where to go. Because once they come to our center and they are given real resources and they have a safe place to talk through their decision, they can make a plan. We have all these resources for them to help make the plan before they tell their parents. Now they feel like, okay, now I'm owning what I did. I'm owning my decision, and this is my plan and the steps I'm gonna take to achieve that goal of parenting or making an adoption plan. Now the parents don't feel like she's dumping this problem on them to solve. So when she comes to them with this plan, they still might be upset, they still might be disappointed, but they see that she's taking control. And that's where we are with her in her appointment. And when we empower her, 3 out of 4 women who were considering abortion when they came through our doors ended up choosing life. And that's 2023.
And your prayer thing is great.
Yeah, we're going to come to that.
Okay.
Oh, this is killing me. All right. There's a picture that's supposed to be there. It's a bathroom display that we have. If you don't go to this church, I know this church bathroom I just saw got beautifully remodeled. So I have a new display for Pastor Chris. But if you go to another church, we have a bathroom display. It's a very flat little shelf, and our brochures go inside, and then there's a QR code next to our logo. So even if she doesn't want to take somebody to find it in her pocketbook, she can scan the QR code and make an appointment online, and nobody needs to know. But it's just another way for, like that Amy Ford didn't know her pregnancy center existed when she was facing an unplanned pregnancy. We want all of the people in our churches to know where they can go. It shouldn't be a surprise to them who we are after the fact. And why is this medical ministry so necessary? We give them the free services they need, the medical services, the referrals, but we give it to them with the gospel for salvation, because they're not just given, when Jesus helped anybody or he healed them, right? He did that tangible thing in that moment, but then he said, go and sin no more. Like, he continued to restore them to salvation. It wasn't just, here, let me give you my cloak and then I'm going to walk away and you're going to die and go burn in hell forever. So ultimately, for her to have the best life possible with this pregnancy is for her to have Jesus with her. All right. There's a big 23 that's not popping up. So 23 women have accepted Christ as Lord and Savior just in the first quarter of 2024. So January, February, March. So 23 women have accepted Christ as Lord and Savior. So much to the fact now that we decided that we have to have a new believers Bible study now, because these women are accepting Christ, and we don't want to just say, okay, bye, and kick them out the door. We want to disciple them now. There's also a ministry that Kathy's getting involved with, where we connect them to the local churches. So we want to have a handful of those Bible-believing, Bible-sound doctrine churches that we know we can refer to, where there's people inside that are connected with Solutions, that, I know that they'll welcome them and go sit with them, and that the church has programs available for the children. Because if she's coming in and she's a single mom, even if she's married, but she's got the baby or she's got multiple kids, I can't send her to a church where it's all, mostly seniors and there's no children ministries, because then she's going to have the kids on her lap crying. Is she going to keep going? No. So if she has that, community, she's more prone to continue attending. But it's just getting her plugged in. I can't stand this. There's a QR code there that's not popping up. But this is to get the prayer. I'll have a table outside at the end of today where I have the QR code on my table if you want to sign up for the text alerts. But this is where God really, we pray every day in the center and we pray for our clients, but then we send out the requests to our prayer team. And this is when she leaves and she says, that's it, I'm getting the abortion. We've done all that we can, and she's still considering abortion, or the boyfriend's furious. You name it. We'll text you the situation. But this, I have seen miracle after miracle with this text team, just really praying on the front lines with us. I don't know why this is happening.
Is it on the laptop screen?
No, it's not on there either. So a lot of it, again, is awareness that they know who we are. They know where to get their services when they're in need. So this is throwing me off. All this stuff is missing. So we've been here for a while. We've been here since 1985, but there's a new generation now that's coming in, the childbearing years, that don't know who we are. So we really need those founding members and the generations before that know about Solutions to connect the next generation. We're on social media. A good way is to just like, share, follow us. We're on Instagram and Facebook. We have a donor side, which is called Friends of Solutions. That's where we're going to give you prayer updates, a fundraising type of stuff. And then there's the client-facing side, which is more of like client testimonies of, this is why you want to come, client review type things, and what our services are. And church liaisons. I know most of you come here, but if you go to another church, you can meet with me to help get your church connected. Colts Neck community is very involved. But if you go to a different church and you want to get them more involved, there's all different ways you could do so. I'm very flexible with creativity. We could find some place for your church to get involved. So you can come see me about that. We have an event here Monday. Here at Colts Neck, it's going to be in the room where they had breakfast. We're going to have a girls' dance class, and we're making it kind of mother-daughter themed for Mother's Day, but you don't have to come with your mother or your daughter to come. And it's $15 donation, includes the dance class and refreshments, and it's like Zumba, but with Christian music. So you don't have to worry about hearing some vulgar words while you're dancing up there. But that's a good thing to invite a young person that maybe won't come to church with you, but they'll come to dance, right? So we have lots of events throughout the year. Attending our events will build awareness for both potential clients and donors just coming out throughout the year. We have a Walk for Life, September 28th at Ocean Grove, the Boardwalk Pavilion. You know, you can come and walk. If you're a vendor, you can have a table there, or you could volunteer to serve. Because we have to do fundraising because there's a cost to this ministry. You know, to say that we provide medical services that these for-profit, you know, hospitals and clinics and Planned Parenthoods provide, and to say it doesn't cost money would be a lie. So our STD testing is $175 per client. And if a client were to go elsewhere for her pregnancy test and ultrasound, they would charge her at $350. They've even been quoted $450. And these are for-profits who say they get government funding and they're telling, you know, we're here to help women, and they still charge them this money when the girl barely had enough money to put gas in her car to get to her appointment. All of ours are free, and that's only because of churches and folks like you. And that's enough. I could go on about him, but the doctor told his mother to abort, and she said no, and she prayed every day. He was supposed to have all these birth defects, and he was born perfect. But that's another testimony. We have our baby bottle boomerang. It's available all year. A lot of people like to do Mother's Day to Father's Day, but you could see me at my table about that if you want your church to do it. I believe Colts Neck is. We have parenting classes. Again, it's equipping them to make that plan. So when they go to their parents, look, I enrolled for parenting classes. I earned diapers and wipes. I get to get all my baby essentials, clothes. I get to go in the boutique shopping, and they get all the things that they need so that they feel like, I can do this. I'm not alone. We have STD testing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That was put a hold on that during COVID. It's reopened now in the Shrewsbury office. Our nurse is amazing. She shares the gospel. And again, when you think we're just seeing all these young people, we had a woman who was in her 40s or 50s, I believe, and her husband was having an affair, and she was having symptoms, and she came and she accepted Christ as her Lord and Savior and at her STD appointment. If it's a young unwed person, we're obviously going to encourage abstinence. We don't want to be here again. What can we do to ensure our health? So if they're unwed, we promote abstinence. But in this case, this woman was having an issue with her marriage, and she was broken. And what hope do you have in that situation but Christ?
Is that evenings?
It's Tuesdays is 9 to 5, Thursdays is 9 to 7 is our late night Thursdays. So that if they're at work, they can come. If you yourself or somebody you know has had a miscarriage, we now have a pregnancy loss support program. Again, it's a Bible study, and this is just walking through that healing journey because there's a lot of emotions that can happen with that, and we wanted to have something to offer in pregnancy no matter what the outcome was. We wanted to have a service for every woman, that there was no woman who felt forgotten, not seen, and that we have something for everybody. So I just want to thank you, because Solutions cannot do what we do without the body of Christ. We all play different roles. Some of you volunteer at the center. Some of you are our ambassadors, churches, liaisons, but we're all needed. You know, 1 Corinthians, it talks about the body of Christ. You know, we can't all be eyeballs. We all can't be pinky toes. I need all of you, and I can only speak so many places. It's within your walls and spheres of influence is how people are going to know about us. We have lots of volunteers, but we always could use more. This is some of our volunteers at our appreciation luncheon we just had. And you can come visit me at the table if you want to sign up for the prayer, if you want to get information for your pastor about the church bathroom display, or if you want me to come talk to your church. We have tours at the Freehold office. You could sign up for that. I'll also have that at my table.